Well, as you can tell by the thumbnail, clearly, Digimon card game, Digimon Liberator, has been out for a little while, and the question is, has it lived up to the hype? Well, before we get into it, as always, remember, as always, to like and subscribe. Remember, we are still on the search of 250 subs. We are only, at this time of recording, almost about 10 out, so it would help out if you could join along. But more importantly than that, you didn't come here to hear that. You came here to listen to me talk about Digimon Liberator. So for those who are not familiar, let me just give a quick rundown. As Digimon card game, Digimon Liberator, I'm only saying the whole thing to explain that that's kind of how it's worded. It's weird. Is a specifically going to be a all online style of a manga as well as a novel focusing on the Digimon card game integrated into the wider Digimon story. As you can tell, Digimon Liberator is going to be focused on multiple different main characters, introducing old and new Digimon alike to a brand new fan base and integrating characters from existing Digimon continuities, as well as utilizing different characters throughout the long history of Digimon. It is very interesting. As for some of the rundown of it, because I don't want to give too many details because you can go look up all of it, Digimon Liberator so far split between both its narratives in the manga, which is technically considered a comic if you look at the English version, but also has a novel variation as well. As we see, at least for the main focus, is going to be primarily on our characters in the manga or comic base. So far, there is about, I think, 6 chapters, technically, between 3, which would be called episodes in the way that they're putting it on the website. So if you do at all want to check it out, remember to go to the Digimon Liberator website. You can check out all of that stuff for free, which is really, really cool. But the main reason I want to talk about that, just to get out of the way, is kind of what they're trying to do with Digimon right now. I do believe after the mixed reactions to our last series that we received, I don't know why my mind's blanking on it right now, with Ghost Game not really living up to what people were hoping for, although I know they wanted to go in a different style, we were left with some different feelings. And then with Digimon Seekers not really paying off, I do think Digimon 02, the beginning was the last animation that really captured people's hearts and they really wanted to see more. But so far for what we're seeing from Liberator, it is very interesting. I do believe that going this style is different. I do like the fact that they're breaking up the story into 2 multiple layers, having the novel as well as the comic work side by side. But let's talk about the hype. So pretty much what was hyped up around Liberator? Pretty much we saw it at the Digimon Con Fest, where they were hyping up this thing called Digimon Liberator. They didn't explain what it was. We saw the cover had this Digimon no one ever seen. This is, obviously going to be Terromon at this point. But the key factor here was that this was going to be something specifically designed around the card game. And so far, the card game mechanics have definitely played a very important role in the manga and both the novel so far. I don't want to spoil too much because, like I said, I want you guys to go read it yourself and kind of give my own opinions on it from yourselves' first-eye perspective. But I can say that I really have so far liked the integration of the card game system. If you watch it, they're basically playing how most of us would play in IRL or in real life. But the main focus here is that it's tying in together something that I think a lot of us wanted to see with the Digimon card game, is that it's really giving it a little bit more of a life breath. As with other card games, obviously they're either stuck to existing IPOs or, really good selling IPOs, kind of. Like, Pokemon, One Piece is a great example from Bandai as well. The Dragon Ball Super game, even though I've never really played the card game, is another one. And although Bandai does have Digimon, this was actually a tough sell. Because in the prior past, with other entries of the Digimon card game, they didn't do too well. However, I do believe this is one of the times where they're really integrating their card games well. As we look at some of the amazing characters so far, I won't talk about some of the stories, but we do have some more images showing us things that will come, as obviously the Dark Imperial Dramon will probably make some appearance as a opponent Digimon for Shoto Kazama and his group in specifically the manga or the comic. I do hope at one point we will see an integration of both the novel and the comic. I also will talk about some of the interesting characters who have recurred. I think one that's interesting is Cool Boy. So for those of you who have played the card game, you do know this is Cool Boy, the person on the X Antibody option, or Cool Boy is the option to search for X Antibody cards. And I believe this is actually his character making a reprisal role from his entries in, I think it was the Royal Knights manga, I could be wrong, that we didn't really receive in the West, but it has narrations, or basically what's the phrase, translations here online. So I do believe it is Cool Boy reprising his role, and it's interesting that he's the character they chose to bring back, because this might be helping build more of the digital world. Some of the side characters, and you obviously can't beat the expectations of not having waifus, because this is the modern day, and anything out of Japan, if it doesn't have waifus, it may not sell as well. But that's just me saying that because of how it works in card games and stuff. But the point aside I want to get is a lot of the waifus so far are at least interesting, and they're not just there to exist. Especially since what we've seen so far, characters like Violet in Boots are obviously going to be more important down the road, and as of the time of recording, at least the chapter has reached her, so she's not just a character that's there. You get to learn a bit about her, and there'll be obviously more as the comics roll forward. But like I said, these character designs are very good, and they have a lot of different elements to them. So that's another thing. Like I said, I don't want to spoil too much. Talking about the other half, though, finally we get to what is known as the novel on the website, which focuses specifically, or starting off with, our character, which is our other protagonist on this side, being Yuki, who is a girl partnered with Impmon. And as you can tell by this other picture, it has characters that will be going in between both. I'm actually really glad to see when maybe they'll tie together. I do know the character in the far background, being Zenith, will be important in both, so that's really cool. As some of the other characters that we see in this picture haven't really either been revealed or showcased, so they'll probably take precedent later. So eventually, I think Liberator will come together with its novel and its manga, having some type of tie-in. I'm not sure when or where, but they have them. The characters so far are pretty good. There's about, I think, 4 chapters so far of the novel. It's not a bad read. I just think if you don't like reading, sub-paragraphs and trying to think in your head, you may not like it, but I've enjoyed it so far. It gives you a little bit more time to have these slowly written out stories to kind of give you some more understanding of the characters. Like Yuki and Impmon's relationship's rather interesting, so I don't really want to spoil that for you guys. But also talking about that, we do have our other characters that we've already showcased by the chapter 0, so I won't talk too much about it because they haven't made any presence so far. Someone like Owen Dreadnought on the far right, and then even Zenith on the far left. They both play an important role, but they haven't shown too much yet, so I'm really glad about that. Like I said, there's time to breathe, and ultimately, obviously, we have our main focus, which will obviously be the manga. So obviously talking about Shoto, Ariza, and Violet. So those 3 are basically going to be our main characters for the one that most people will focus on. But like I said, let's close it together. Has it lived up to the hype so far? Well, here's the thing. I do believe that they're delivering quality this time. They're not giving us junk, because I think the problem with Seekers was no one wanted to read Seekers. They wanted to either watch Seekers or have a manga like we're having now. I think this is a great step in the right direction. I'm really glad they decided to integrate the aspects of the card game, because I think the Vital Bracelet was integrated okay to a degree in Seekers, but I think because of the way that they did Seekers, it didn't really resonate with a lot of people. It didn't make people want to buy the Vital Bracelets. I have one, but it didn't make people want to buy one. So I think they tried to back up and say, let's see what works. The card game's working, let's make it around that. And I'm really glad they did that. I think that we're still kind of in the infancy of it. I think people just need to go watch it, or read it at this point. So if you've been feeling like you've been on the edge, wondering if this is actually cool or good, I'm just going to give my seal of approval so far. I don't know, like I said, I'm waiting for it to develop more, but from what I've seen, I've really liked it. Like I said, I played the game since its inception, and I've really just been enjoying the fact that they're not letting it die. I was kind of worried Digimon would just kind of let it fall off and they'd go back to, just focusing maybe on animes or whatever. But I'm glad the card game hasn't. They're trying their best to keep it going, and I do think that Liberators is a good step in the right direction, because it gives more life breath to the game, and it makes you feel more tied to it. Also, this could be a hint of some stuff coming in the future, because we do know VR is really being experimented heavily, and The only little tidbit I'll talk about is that the Digimon Liberator's main world for the game does take place in a VR-based place, or virtual reality, obviously. You may see that there might be something from Bandai in the future. Point is, I think it's lived up to the hype so far. We still have far more stuff coming, so I would say just look out, give it a read, tell me what you think down in the comments below. But so far, I'm going to say it's lived up to the hype, and it can only get better from here. So, as always, this has been Brad from the Ad Army signing off. And for all of you out there, to sign on.